Hello, this is the Weekly Review, a program of South Sudan Network making sense of relevant topics and news. My name is Roger Alfred Yoron Modi. I'm the producer and host. Today, we are joined by a popular South Sudanese politician. She aspires to be South Sudan's president. She is a leader of STEPS, a political group operating mostly outside the country at the moment. She is the founder of Dr. Garang Peace Institute for Women. She is also a Mandela 2017 Ubuntu laureate and a former foreign secretary at the SPLM National Secretariat. And she's professionally a constitutional lawyer. Welcome, Suzanne Jambo.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today. Thank you for hosting me, and our nation does need every effort and every voice to come together. So I am honored to be here with you today.
Yes, we will be looking at several issues happening in the country at the moment, and also the agenda of your party, what you seek to achieve. Interestingly, before you became a critic of President Kiir, you were the people around there in the leadership, the top leadership of the SPLM in Juba those days, and you also being a follower of Garang for several years. What would you say in terms of this grouping? People say sometimes there's Garang boys, there is this and that, and where do you belong, especially given that from 2017, that's when you started being a critic of Kiir?
Yeah, I have been an SPLM member since '98, since the age of 22. As you rightfully put it, when Dr. Garang was there, as soon as I finished university. And I have worked on voluntary basis, and I have also worked on with indigenous NGOs. We formed the first network of indigenous NGOs, NESI Network, and that was an umbrella group to come together as indigenous South Sudanese to talk on our behalf in terms of prioritization of issues such as peace, as well as capacity development and empowerment of our people. That was vis-a-vis the international community, which was present at the time, which was mostly catering for international staff as to local staff. And as well, in as far as SPLM, talking political issues only, and we wanted to come as civil society to talk about social, cultural, and empowerment issues of communities. And so that's my background. My background has been very strong on issues to do with our communities, with our people. So when Garang co-opted me into the SPLM, it was primarily to represent the civil society, women, the youth at the time, because I was 22, into the SPLM to talk on behalf of the civil society, the communities, in the peace talks of IGA at that time, the Naivasha peace talks, or the CPA, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement peace talks. So when 2005 came and we signed the peace agreement, I quit the SPLM and I went back to civil society. That is an example of a clear example to show you that it was never for me about position, but it was more to do to serve our people. So I knew that there would be too many people wanting to be in government and very few will remain to continue to be for the people. So I stayed behind in the civil side, even though I was marked to become a minister either in Khartoum or in Juba. So I stayed away until 2008 when President Salva Kiir called me to come and take over the newly formed the National Secretariat on Foreign Relations. And because it was a national call, I heeded the call. I knew that by 2008, the SPLM sadly had a bad image of corruption, disappointing and letting the people down. However, on the other hand, the people aspiration since 1955, we the South Sudanese, the marginalized and oppressed people of Sudan, have been marginalized, and our yearning, number one yearning, has been to go through a referendum so that we cross to the river of our freedom, of our integrity as people. So because of that, I decided to join the SPLM again in 2008 in the capacity of Foreign Secretary, so that I would build strong relations within Africa and the international community with the newly to be formed Republic of South Sudan. We wanted to build trust and foreign relations.
So you don't subscribe to those groupings? Those groupings, you don't subscribe to them?
The Garang boys, I mean, the international community, some people would nickname some people, you know, because they were closely associated with the late Dr. Garang, you know. So it is a few, I don't want to mention names, but it's a few number of people who were very close to Garang. I wouldn't say myself as to have been a Garang girl or Garang boy part of that group. I was close to Dr. Garang in terms of the fact that I spoke to him frankly and candidly on issues to do with the youth and women always and all communities of South Sudan. And Garang really listened to those advice. So that's on that basis, I was able to speak to Garang very openly. And he also saw an asset in me. That's why he took me around the world to Norway, for example, the US, to build foreign relations in '99, as soon as I joined the SPLM. So to me, he also saw my variability in terms of engaging frankly, because when you come on a strong background on human rights, you are able to speak the truth as is, you know, as to being a politician or a veteran liberation movement activist. So that's I think why I was close to Garang. And so basically the groupings with Dr. Garang, it's you can see it, and it's open-ended. There are many people who were close to Dr. Garang.
You've been a critic of Kir, especially since 2017 when you came openly and you later started the Steps, a party that is operating outside the country at the moment. What is your assessment of the political situation in the country at the moment?
In 2013, when the war broke out, it was a very senseless war from the outset. There was nothing that we could not have disagreed upon and agreed upon in a peaceful manner. I mean, South Sudan is tired of wars. We've been at wars for so many. Now we were independent. What's the point of carrying up arms again? So the war broke out, and I tried to group together. I have held 2 symposiums in Juba with all the political parties and civil society activists on December 31st, 2013 and in February 2014. One is South Sudan, and this is one thing that I have always shared even during the Naivasha CPA talks, that we must ensure to highlight and to anchor the building of the nation of South Sudan. So basically, when I realized that increasingly the discussions between me and SPLM chairman Salva Kiir as the president of the republic became increasingly on friction, because I was pushing him for peaceful mechanism to resolve the conflict in South Sudan and diplomatic efforts. But he was more opting for military solution. And this is why we fell out in 2015. And he consequently fired me from my position. So I took a year, a sabbatical year, reflecting, because obviously if you have been in the SPLM for so long, by then it was 16 years of my life, you know, it was hard. I mean, I was thinking, how do I branch out of SPLM without having to hurt the legacy of our struggle? Because SPLM is part of the history of our struggle. But it came 2017, I decided, and I reached out to close associates, like-minded South Sudanese, to come together with through the umbrella of Steps, the political party. And in Steps, we're addressing critically missing points, such as the disunity among us, the people of South Sudan, and the highest level of mistrust. We're looking inwardly at ourselves, not at the government, not at political actors, but we the people, to own our own peace, so that we form or chart the way for our nation. So anchored on peace, based on unity of we the people of South Sudan, reclaiming our country back from opportunistic political leadership across the divide, in the government and in opposition groups. And secondly, primarily to be anchored on peaceful methods. We're tired of wars being upon us, and so within Steps, this is the mechanism. And of course, thirdly, which is very, very important, inclusivity. Inclusivity of all the communities of South Sudan, the 64, that's why our motto is We 64, as well as youthful leadership and women, because we realize that both women and the youth are excluded from the decision-making level in South Sudan.
Steps is not part of the peace agreement, the revitalized agreement in Juba, and we're not sure if you are part of other processes that is going on. So to our viewers, what would you say is your agenda? What are your problems? What are your agenda? How are you engaging the people of South Sudan?
Well, STEPS is definitely out of the peace talks in Ethiopia or in Rome or wherever, and simply because STEPS has decided to opt for a peaceful method of resolving the conflict in South Sudan, people-to-people peaceful method. And unfortunately, even the international community and the regional community need to be re-educated on people's peace, because appeasing armed rebellion or appeasing government for position's sake is not political. It's political agreement is not a peace agreement. Peace agreement is felt and owned by the people when really people do not prioritize about positions. So that's why STEPS has opted out and has been rejected as well by the mediators, because we don't carry guns, you know. So STEPS program, like I said, our vision is the unification of our people and founding a nationhood, a prosperous nation in South Sudan. So basically the unification and the peaceful building of a prosperous nation. This is our vision as STEPS. Our mission is to go piece by piece among our communities to restore peace, to restore trust in the people, because we believe that's the only way to have final peace in the country. Based on we are able to hear one another, we are able to understand each other, and thereby agree to coexist side by side peacefully. So this is our mission. Our program is varied. Our program is the motto of our program emanates from South Sudan will be built through STEPS into where the world is at today. We do not need to go through mistakes others have gone through in other countries. South Sudan is the world's youngest nation. It does not make any sense for South Sudan to do baby steps when we really should acquire the latest technology, the latest everything in our country. But of course, to do that, we must tackle the issue of peace the right way. When you look at Rwanda, for example, for Rwanda to have been able to overcome genocide and never to look back at conflict and war is through the unification of the people of Rwanda and the equality between the people. So today, there is Rwandans. There is no such a thing as this tribe or that, Hutu or Tutsi. So it's the same approach. And this is an African nation, post-conflict nation that has gone through similar kind of conflict as South Sudan has been undergoing. So for us, this is what will consolidate and sustain peace in the country when it's owned by the people, felt by the people, urged by the people. But obviously, of course, there will be other mechanisms of the return of rule of law, constitutionalism, where no one has the right to declare war and get away with it. You know, there will be respect for the rule of law and all that. And then, of course, there are many other programs. For example, gratitude to our fallen heroes and their families. A nation is not built. If a nation as ours, which has been made out of selfless sacrifices for decades, our ancestors have died and gave so dearly for our nation. Their blood is still there. We have not honored that blood up to now. So we have to pay gratitude to our ancestors who have fallen in order for us to become a nation today, and to also thank their families for the selfless sacrifices they too gave, and the disabled communities. And of course, when we talk about that, we talk about so many favoring programs, whether it's public amenities that are suitable for disabled people, whether it's soft loans for widows and orphans, whether it's scholarship and education opportunities. It's huge, from motor to songs to cultural education on the selfless sacrifices by them, so that they take pride. They take pride in the price that they paid so dearly for, that the nation is today.
And talking about that, you know, many parties, when you look at the River Teles Agreement and even the agreement before the River Teles Agreement, some of them came the same way you are talking about now, peaceful methods, and some of them didn't take up arms and they participated in the peace processes. But then they later, after getting to power, they became different. They started doing different things, sometimes unable to contribute to the reforms that are needed, even the ones that they've signed up for in the agreements. And it became like they just, briefcase parties, and they just disappear anyhow. How unique is STEPS going to be?
Well, you see that the most important thing, the departure point, is that we don't believe in the government in Juba completely. Completely. You see, the thing is, when as a political party, how much beautiful vision and programs one may have, but if you get absorbed and integrated within a government that essentially is segregating, is divisive, is violent and democratic, obviously you're going to get swallowed by it. So ours is a total change. It's a total change in the country where we believe that the government of the day would be servant of the people. So we'll be answerable to the people, questionable by the people. Unlike the government that a lot have been integrated and absorbed into and swallowed by it will not make any difference.
So then what is it? You're waiting for elections like the peace agreement, of course, they're implementing it slowly here and there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what next is the step going to look for?
Well,
Are you mobilizing people on the ground?
Yeah. We're going through three tracks. You know, in South Sudan, the situation is so sticky. You have to be very innovative and creative and dynamic at the same time. You cannot say this is the only way or the highway. So we have three tracks that we are approaching, and all of them complement each other. One is that we the people must believe in ourselves that we can coexist and come together. When the voices of the people are united, there is no power that is more powerful than them. Anything is possible thereafter, whether they demand it constitutionally or they do peaceful protest. It can happen in any way. But it has a long-term impact, which is that the people are always going to be civically educated on their rights, which is very, very important to us. So it shall be consolidated once we're in power to make sure the continuation of the education of our people on their civil and constitutional rights. The second element of it is to lobby regional international community on expediting elections, free, fair elections in the country. And it must ensure before that, prerequisite to that they must be availing of basic freedoms in the country, freedom of expression, freedom of the media, freedom of movement and assembly and all that. Otherwise, there cannot be free, fair elections in the country unless there is a prevailing environment taking place in the country that for us to be able to hold elections. The third element, of course, is by making an upright, straightaway demonstrations, peaceful protests countrywide, and we're organizing it as has been happening in neighboring Sudan, which ousted Omar Bashir from power. So we have been trying to do that through coalition with other groups such as the Red Card Movement. We have been working and organizing on those issues. So three tracks that we are following as steps.
Is the Red Card movement existing? Is it a practical thing in South Sudan, or is it just online?
Well, it's not about being existing or not. Is the SPLM existing? Is the SPLM existing? Is a government in South Sudan existing? You see, when it comes to questions of existence, it is all in the mind. If the people believe that the time has come for this government to go and for the people to take over and make their demands, rightful demand for their place in the country, that they are their citizens, full citizens that should be respected by the leadership of the day, then so be it. So basically for us, we are working day and night in mobilizing our thinking, our mindset. We're breaking. When we started as Steps 2017, there was no talk of unity of the people. Everybody was talking tribal war. I mean, everybody was against each other, be it inside South Sudan or on social media. And by the way, we work undercover too. We don't work only in the diaspora. We are working inside South Sudan and in refugee camps and neighboring countries such as Sudan and Egypt. So basically, there's no less than 4 million South Sudanese living within neighboring countries out of the 12 million. That's a huge number. There's no less than 2 million living in the diaspora. That's a huge number. These are citizens of South Sudan, and we're working on educating and empowering these people, or wherever we are, on our rights and our unity of the people. And we have gone a long way. We have come a long way from 2017 to today. There's so much talk now about unity and peacefully as the only way, because wars, conflict, guns, and ethnic hate have all been tried. Where has it taken us? Bloodshed. And
talking about the SPLM, it's your party. You've been there. It was your party. You've been instrumental there. Don't you see a possibility of getting back to the SPLM? Maybe a reformed or unified SPLM? And even, is there a need to maintain the name SPLM after liberation from Sudan?
The naming of SPLM is a very tricky issue, and it's time that the SPLM leadership must really look into that. But before the naming, they need to reorganize themselves and so much. I was a member of the SPLM. I always believe in the vision of the SPLM, which is unity, justice, equality, and prosperity. These are relevant yesterday and relevant today and tomorrow in South Sudan. However, the leadership, the way how things have been stalled for so many years, I no longer believe in my continuation or membership in SPLM, because there is no much time to be wasted and to be wasted in wrangles, internal wrangles, and then look at how many SPLM divisions are there. How many sections of SPLM are there? It's just a non-starter. However, the history and the legacy of SPLM is there. The people of South Sudan know it, what SPLM has done to help us to get this far in South Sudan, at least as far as 2011. But after that, the luminaries of SPLM, top leadership of SPLM, have really messed up. But history will write. You see, part of our education is the identity. Our identity, the people of South Sudan, which means our history, our cultures, embodiment of everything that we are and our values as a people. And of course, history cannot deny facts. So whatever SPLM did historically wonderful to the people of South Sudan, as did the Anyanya one, that all shall be included in our history books, and our children for generations to come shall study that and take pride in it. However, we should not be stuck, because, also the present matter, the future matter. It's not, we cannot be stuck in the past, and especially if the past is hurting us right now in South Sudan.
Many of the parties that came up during the crisis continue to express their preference of federal system of governance as the system to govern South Sudan. What is STEP standing for?
Well, the decentralization of power is very important. When we talk about constitutionalism, it means that follow the constitution to the letter. South Sudan is a federal republic. South Sudan as is a federal republic. The only difference is that there's too much powers vested on the person of the president and interference with the state's level, and that's where the mistake is as well. He takes the constitution to his hand, and he becomes the alpha and the omega of the constitution.
You made it. You people in the SPLM made the constitution in 20.
Well, I didn't. But I'm a reformist within SPLM, and this is a story for another day, because accountability for actions can only be done forensically. Because I do have all my written stuff in terms of disagreements, in terms of not reforms, in terms of what I have all that written and documented very well in terms of what should have been and ought to have been. However, let's stick to this point. The point I'm trying to say here is that the issue is not about naming or semantics. The issue is that the Constitution itself is not followed, and where it is followed is where it is wrong. You understand? So basically, there has to be a permanent, we're still even in a transitional constitution. How many years down the road since our independence? There has to be a permanent constitution drafting process that is inclusive, that is transparent, that is grassroots based, where the people shall spell out their aspirations. And of course, all these issues of federalism, but of federalism is not only in terms of constitutional and rule of law, but also in terms of revenue generation, which means that decentralization of funds to the states. That means every state must generate its own economy and all that. So it's basically, it's a holistic and a huge undertaking that must be done. But where there is no political will, for the respect of rule of law, for democracy, for separation of powers, you can have the best constitution and it will still not be followed.
So STEPS has no explicit stance on the type of system of governance.
Good governance.
System of governance.
System of governance. System of governance. Good governance. And when you have a good constitution based on what the people want, for us, we as a political party, we don't drive the agenda. It is the people that drive the agenda. So for us, our work is to avail the working environment for the people to be able to express what they want. And during that process of the permanent constitution drafting is when the people will express what they want to do, and that's when we will abide by it. So if they tell us federally, because South Sudan as is a federal state, is a federal republic, but it's not followed. We don't politicize, STEPS does not politicize national issues to gain popularity. or to be divisive among the people of South Sudan. We listen to our people. We're here to serve our people as a would-be government of the day. So you understand, it is them, the people themselves, that who will drive the agenda for the constitution of the country, where the corrections, where the amendments, where the aspirations, where they scrape it off altogether and make another constitution, that shall be their making. And
I'm sure you can agree that we can't rule out imperfections within your party as the steps, because first of all, I'm sure it's not registered as a party in the Republic of South Sudan, and you're operating in terms of just the goodwill of your people around you, and because you don't have a mechanism sanctioned by the law of the country, so you're outside the country, is basically your beliefs. You agree as a people, and you work around that, and you see that imperfection also can be said to be some of the challenges.
Do you see that as an imperfection, or do you see that that's a circumstance forced on all democratic people of South Sudan? That's a circumstance. I mean, today, if you speak about democracy as a journalist, where will you end up tomorrow? The Blue House. So basically, I mean, would you call being in exile, would you call being not registered because you know they will not register you? Because for as long as we have the 2014 National Security Act, we can't have freedoms in the country. So, I mean, we are talking about replacing the system that is in the country at the moment. Do you think they will register us?
Well, those circumstances...
That's not an imperfection. Actually, that's not I would look at this as a very survival technique, that a determination from the membership of STEPS to want to work regardless of the circumstances.
Fine. In spite of that, it's a circumstance. Like you said, you are working because of the circumstance. But then the circumstance creates a scenario whereby even from within, like if you have disagreements within the party, like where you are, I don't know whether you're in Europe or in America, there's nobody who can sue you for violating the party rules or your constitution, or not only you, but even any other member or any other organ of the party. That's what circumstances.
We do have a constitution, and we do have bylaws where if anybody acts against the laws of the constitution of STEPS, which we have all agreed upon, that person is put through a committee that will investigate their conduct, and thereby we have already done that process already a couple of years ago. With one of the members had an issue with the membership, and then he was suspended temporarily, and he appealed his case, and he was reinstated back into the party. So we do have rules wherever we are. We work on the go. We don't postpone, because you have to practice what you preach all the way. You understand? So the most regulating thing in life is not laws written on paper. Do you know the most regulating thing in life is our own internal self-regulation? When people come on voluntary basis without any pay, without any money, but they come on voluntary basis because they're driven by the passion to serve the country and to do something good for our country. Do you know, there's no more sacrifice than that, and there is no more...
There's a tricky thing here. Having political parties, of course, involves shared beliefs, you as a people, and things like that. But then over the years, we've seen that even people with different agenda can come and have been joining parties, and what they call counterinsurgencies or whatever. They can be with you, but they have a different agenda. So this has happened. So all these relations have been able to be regulated when there are good laws, when there are even mechanisms, even apart from the internal party systems, where people can seek justice, including the courts. So now this is the circumstance created to you because you are outside the country and there is war. And how would you be able to
But we don't take that as an excuse. We don't take the war as an excuse. We don't take it as an excuse.
Yes, but people who can come to your party, but then they don't have the same beliefs. They don't have the same beliefs.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. If somebody comes and works against the party within the party, obviously, like I just said, there are disciplinary actions because you come into the party knowing what are the rules and the regulations and what's the vision and what are what's the constitution and the bylaws that are binding people together in this party. Obviously, I mean, we're talking the obvious, aren't we? Mm-hmm. And I said to you something very important. Mm-hmm. When you are committed to something, today you are on this Sawa network. It's your commitment to journalism, to speaking our issues of the country that brings you here. Is there any more stronger rule of law or law that you can find than this? What made you come on time and sit here and be on air? That's what I'm talking about.
Well, we have our profession, has some guidelines we follow.
But of course, I'm sure you have all that. That's obvious. But that's obvious, obviously. But that if you're not getting paid, and you still come here on time, it shows the level of commitment. Commitment is a law. Is a personal law within every human being, when we have it or not. So when you see people in South Sudan, have you noticed that when people get paid, they get a lot of money and there's a lot of corruption in the country. But even with all that, they're never in the offices. They're never doing their work. So basically, it is the purpose why you are behind that desk, the purpose why you came to serve the people. That's what regulates you. It is something that is self-regulatory as to an external...
We are heading towards the conclusion, and South Sudan is turning 10 years as an independent country next week. What would you say about just the independence, and maybe we conclude by your expectations and your hopes?
In 10 years, we've only achieved one thing. We achieved a country called the Republic of South Sudan that has a flag and is a member of the United Nations African Union, the technical part, 10 years. That's the only thing we've achieved, really, because nothing is, every day things are going from bad to worse. Today, we don't even know the value of the currency of the South Sudanese pounds. It fluctuates so much, we don't even know how much exactly it is. The black market is more prevalent than the official market, and if you're lucky, you get 1 meal a day, if you're lucky, So, and we don't have running water in our taps. COVID is attacking us so bad. More than almost half the population is outside the country. Instability, insecurity is highest. So I would look at it in two folds. One is internally. What's going on in South Sudan? Nothing has happened in terms of achievement other than we have proclaimed the nation called the Republic of South Sudan. But it's a country, it's not yet a nation, because we have animosity among us as people. We've taken arms, we continue to take arms against one another. So we're not yet a nation. And externally, I would urge the African Union, because now it has reached a point that Africa is silent on our silent tragedy. Africa should not and cannot keep quiet on what's going on in our country. Africa must come together as the big brother. They have been independent since the 50s and the 60s and whatnot. They have the power. Kenya, for example, is now a rotational member of the United Nations Security Council, a rotational member for 2 years until 2023. Kenya has the moral obligation more than any other country, because Kenya was the chief mediator of the CPA, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, that actually proclaimed, which facilitated for the proclamation of our nation and our country in 2011. So Kenya has a moral obligation to ensure that South Sudan is back to peace and normalcy. There are so many things that have to be done, because our leaders internally are at complete ineptitude, helpless, point of inability to be able to restore peace and sanity in the country. That's a matter of fact.
You don't see hope in the implementation of the revitalized agreement?
Where is it? Every 1 year or so they will do a part of it. Every 1 year or so a part of it. I mean, have the parliamentarians even been sworn in? I mean, what's going on where is it, honestly speaking? I mean, it's a peace agreement that was signed in November 2018. Where is Bashir, who even midwifed it? He's in jail, So, I mean, what's going on? Ethiopia no longer is interested. in being part of this peace implementation? Who is monitoring the peace agreement in South Sudan?
But in its absence, the situation even could get worse.
Well, then it's not a peace agreement. It's assessed as some sort of I don't even know what to call it. Some sort of a small lifeline, some sort of a small lifeline, you know, but it isn't. I mean, it's not a peace agreement. For as long as there's fighting going on in the country, for as long as we don't feel safe in every part of our country, for as long as there's still communal fighting going on in the country and no accountability. I mean, look at what's going on in Rumbek, for example. What kind of a peace is that?
It's an issue of disarmament. Arms in the hands of civilians, so many throughout the country. So it's a huge issue.
It's not an issue of disarmament. It's an issue of failure of a government to implement rule of law because the government does not have the interest of rule of law. But guess what? One journalist or one activist says anything against the government, he or she will be arrested, detained, arbitrarily detained, from even removed from his own mother's womb. You know, they will find him or her and they will finish him or her in no time. So, you know, it's a matter of prioritization. What is priority? Is to ensure that the government is in place and terrorizing people. The government does not care to provide services to the people. A government is a government that provides services, security, safety, and all that. But this government has failed, totally failed.
Suzanne Jambo, your final message in 1 minute or less.
Yeah, my final message is that there are, as we approach the 9th July, our independence celebration or commemoration, not celebrations, but remembrance, 10 years especially, I want us to reflect inwardly into each and every one of us. Because our nation is us, lives in us. When we die, our kids continue. We must make sure we do the right thing. There is no way that we're going to look up to the government to take care of our nation. It is us to take care of our nation. It is us to take care of one another. It is us to ensure our voices are united so we are powerful. We should not underestimate the unity, the power of our united voices as people of South Sudan. It's very, very important. And the youth in particular, it is the youth who will remain here when some of us will be. I'm a middle-aged person. There are people who are even way older than me. They're definitely going today, if not tomorrow, you know, and I will be there. And the youth, and there are the younger ones. Are you going to take the country when there is no more country? I'm talking about forests being cut in Western Equatoria and certain parts of Bahar Ghazal. I'm talking about rivers being polluted and drying out in Unity State due to bad pollution from oil spillage. I'm talking about human beings that are sick with so many things, that mental, physical, biological diseases that are incurable probably in the longest term. What country are you going to inherit as younger people after I'm gone and after the younger ones come as well? There will be no country. The responsibility is on us.
Well, our dear viewer, we have come to the end of the weekly review. For this week, we had Suzanne Jambo. Yes. She is the leader of STEPS, and she is aspiring to be a president of South Sudan. By the way, tell us something about that aspiration to become a president.
From the time that I've been in SPLM, I've been a good student. I never made noise. I was always with my pen and paper, writing down and noting. So whenever I noticed there was a gap, I was always putting it down. Either when there's an opportunity to say to the leadership of the day that this should be done this way, this is my suggestion, or park it aside. So I've been a witness to the part of our struggle and to the formation of our nation, our country, hopefully to become a nation very soon. So part of my moral obligation as a witness to all of these things and the missed opportunities that I've also witnessed and seen with my own eyes, have come to our calling. The calling is to serve the people of South Sudan, because I know the problem has been the absence of a patriotic leadership that loves every inch of South Sudan and sees the potentials and the opportunities that are in South Sudan that are being wasted and being damaged. So basically, to me, it's about the service of the people. It's a calling. It's a higher calling than I can explain it. But I know I've been a witness to a lot of things, and things ought to have been done way differently. And I know that I'm capable of doing what the people want me to do, because I believe that I'm their servant.
Looking at social media, of course, we see you're famous, you're popular, there are people following you and agreeing with you. But do you see that aspiration of becoming president materializing any soon?
It can materialize very soon. Anytime, if our people unite. When our people unite, they will know who the leadership for that country should be and ought to be. If the people unite. See, for as long as I see South Sudan from my tribal or regional lens, I will only look at that tribal or leader. But when I look at South Sudan as a whole country, as a citizen of South Sudan, I will know immediately the leadership that our country deserves.
Thank you very much for being on the Weekly Review.
Thank you so much for having me, Alfred, and good luck. And I'm glad that I was honored to be here with you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Bye.